Hi, this is Vicki from Learning Home Volunteers, and welcome back to our session. This week, we're going to use our cubes to make letters, do some puzzles, work with liquids, and try some hopscotch, which, of course, features numbers. So let's get started. This is activity number 5, and one of the great things I like about the cubes from your teacher's kit is that they're great for building all sorts of things. In this activity, we're going to be building letters and numbers, and in your box, you should find a couple of printed pages, which are front to back, which have a few selected letters, which show you how to build them on using the cubes. So, why is this a learning activity? Well, as children of this age don't really read, they need to learn the shapes of the letters through experimentation. And building them with Play Doh, cubes, blocks is a really good way to get the sense of their shape and their orientation. And this will help introduce them to the letters before they actually try and write them or actually even recognize them. This is activity number 6, and we're going to solve a puzzle with cubes from your teacher's kit. And this is kind of puzzle is called a fill puzzle. The idea is that the children use their cubes to fill the space. And you can see as an adult, there are spaces here which are clearly only for a single cube, like here. Um, and others are going to take rows and rows of cubes, like this one. And you know this because size and shape is something that you've already learned to estimate. Children are still learning this, and understanding what makes an object with a cube helps them to begin to understand the look and shape and break it down, like we do when we actually write. And you can see here the letter A, for example, has a triangle up on top and then lines on the bottom being the feet. In these exercises, you can help them look at the space and ask some questions like, how many rows of cubes do you think we need for this shape? And adding language to these actions will allow your child to be able to learn these words. And then when working on similar things in the future, ask questions of their own. So you want to build on these skills? Well, you can make a puzzle of your own. You can simply draw lines on the paper, like this one here, and the child would build a cube structure that looks just like it. And they can use the line to actually check to see if it matches. Kind of cool, huh? This is activity number 6. The last one we want to you could do is using your 10 frames with cubes where you can practice building numbers that are larger or bigger or smaller. Let's try something simple. Here is a trend frame which represents the number 4. Would you have to add more tokens or remove tokens to make a number that is larger? So if your child says, well, I would remove 1, and here we have what it would look like. Have them recount the tokens. So did you get the number 4 to the number 4 when you were counting? Well, of course they didn't because they had to stop at 3. Then this number is actually less than the number 4. This is activity number 7, working with volume. Working with liquids is really tricky because liquids take on the shape of the container. So pouring liquids from one container to another is truly a good skill to have. And we've provided you in your box a clear container. And our first exercise is to put a line on the container using a marker. What we would like them to do is to try to fill the empty container up to the line. And you notice that this child is doing that work inside a baking dish because, well, it's probably she's going to spill. And in your box is another idea for working with liquids, which is using a dropper or pipette and moving water from one container to the other by using a pipette requires a lot of squeezing and pushing on the top of the pipette, which really helps build their muscles in their hands. So in your box, find your dropper and your pipette, and then as you move the water from one set to the other, how many drops do you think it's going to take to fill up that bowl there? Well, our last idea with working with liquids is to have a number of different vessels for the water. Fill one up to the top. Maybe it's a long and skinny one, and then try to pour it into the next container. Will it hold all of the water? Well, let's try. This is activity number 8, hopscotch. Hopscotch is played by children outside on sidewalks and playgrounds. The patterns they use to play this game are numerous, and we've actually provided a paper with some choices for you from ones that I've seen in the past. Children draw these patterns on the sidewalk with chalk, and then they hop from the numbers 1 to 3 to 2 to 3 and so forth. These games are lovely as they work on number sequencing, jumping, and following a pattern. So in your box, you're going to find some chalk. Help build a hopscotch pattern for your child on the sidewalk or driveway. If your child doesn't recognize print numbers, use dots to help them count which one to go to next. Well, that's all for this week. I'll talk to you next week. See you then.